really will dictate that, because I think LMQ, they played TSM's team comp pretty much the same way that TSM did, and it was just really, really great play from both sides. So I think still looking for those contested picks.
So TSM is back on blue side, probably. Are they just going to take that same composition, steal it back from LMQ? It's ours. Yeah. We came up with it first.
I definitely think there's going to be a Ryze first pick. I'd be really surprised if they give Ackerman Ryze again. I think it's going to be something where LMQ can't get all three playmakers, because that game they had Ryze on Ackerman, which is very comfortable champion for him, and he made a lot of plays. They had Orianna on Zhao Weizhao, which is another really comfortable champion he makes plays on. And then they had Vasily with Trist, who's just flashing in to kill Xerath and stuff. So they need to take some kind of champion away from their playmakers so they have less options to win the game.
Yeah, I think, like you said, first pick Ryze is going to happen again for the fourth game in a row. Doesn't take a crystal ball to think of that one. But then I think that Tristana is going to be picked up first round on red side this game. That's my prediction here. Is I think that's going to go down, because we've been seeing Lucian filling that role. But I think that's the incorrect pick here for what you're handling in terms of playstyle of the two AD carries.
I'd like to see things shaken up a little bit. Probably I want to jump to a little bit more of a microcosm, the mid lane, because we saw Xerath versus Orianna, and I feel like you had some interesting points during the game about how that matchup goes and like skill orders and things like that.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. So Zhao Weizhao started Q on Orianna, which is normally non-traditional. You start E, the shield, just to protect yourself. So he started Q, which for me tells me he's going to try to be aggressive and try to make Xerath back early. But at the same time, Xerath started W, which is a disengage skill, offers a huge slow, and it's a huge range. And it's unlike Q, it doesn't slow you down. So what happened was Orianna's trying to get in range to shoot her Q, and Xerath is able to back up and uses W and outrange her, and then she takes huge poke. She no longer has a shield. And you saw the level 1 play with Orianna. She was like half HP from 2 Xerath Ws. So it was almost like she Zhao Weizhao wanted to be aggressive, and Bjergsen matched that aggression and was just able to counter it really well.
And Bjergsen was making some pretty big plays there on Xerath. He got a fair amount of kills under his belt, but he is playing a fairly immobile champion. So is that something he can go back to, or does he need to be on something more like Fizz that allows him to, get those kills, but also have a little bit more ability and safety for himself?
I do think like the Fizz and, like even Syndra fits his playstyle a lot more, because you can 100 to 0 people, on a high frequency. When Xerath, he has to do EWQ and then RRR, so he can't just kill someone before people can react. But after watching that game, I definitely think Bjergsen's put in a lot of time and effort to learn Xerath, and it's kind of showing. So I think if he wants to play that kind of champion, he can go back to it, and as long as the rest of this team is following up on it and protecting him, they can carry with it.
Yeah, LMQ are throwing a lot of bans at Syndra and Zed this series, trying to keep him off of that type of champion. And I think, it really is just dictated, once again, by picks. I don't think you pick a blind Fizz or anything like that. But I do think that, Ziggs is always open here. You can go for a wave clear champion. You can go for the poke champion. Just whatever suits your comp. I don't think it's just a definitive style point there for Bjergsen, because he can play pretty much everything.
Well, and after picking up those kills on Xerath, being one of the bigger threats, we saw LMQ put a lot of focus on trying to catch him out and, take him out early in the fights. We're actually going to pull up a replay about 15 minutes into the game. Is a fight in the mid lane where No Name goes for a kick to displace Xerath. Probably I'm going to let you take this one away.
So this one was really interesting. They don't even start the dragon because they just want to immediately go into a fight. So this is where they need an opening on Bjergsen, and they already used Rune Prison, so now the only opening they have is with the Lee Sin kick. So Lee Sin's going to follow this kick onto Dyrus, which is really smart, and then kick Bjergsen slightly over the wall. If he was able to keep him in that line bush, Ackerman was there to follow up with the Rune Prison. So at this point, it's just TSM having to kite back. Orianna pulls off a good shockwave, which kind of keeps them in the fight and gets them their first kill. And at this point, it's just everyone tries to kite over Xerath right now.
I feel like this fight was pretty indicative of the expertise of both teams, as we only saw a 1-for-1 trade here, so it wasn't like a huge swing in either team's favor. Oh. We saw a lot of fights, actually, as Vasily with the happy feet dances away from the Xerath ults. But we saw a lot of fights that ended in either 1-for-1s, 2-for-2s, or none-for-nones even. So that speaks to the skill level of both of these teams and the shot calling and their comfortability in these team fights.
Yeah, and Vasily went really hard there. Speaking of comfort in a team fight, he had a huge item advantage there over Wild Turtle. He's like, oh, I have double buffs. Jump straight in, try to get a kill for himself. It was great to watch. If he wasn't that far ahead, he wouldn't have been able to pull that off in terms of surviving at the end.
All right. We're at that point in the series where it is series point for one of the teams. LMQ, if they win this next one, they move on to the finals. So probably final question to you, just as a player, when you're moving in to that scenario in a best of 5, on the side of TSM, what do you do to have the mindset of, I know we have to win 2 in a row, but let's focus on just this one. We need this win first to get to the last one.
Yeah, I think probably the most important thing is don't think of it as they're 1 win away. You have to think of it as you're 1 win away from tying the game, and you just want to go for that tie. And then if you get that advantage by matching the tie, you're going to feel really confident. You're going to feel really good, and you're going to be able to get that tiebreaker pretty easily. So I think as long as they stay away from like the negative side of they're 1 game down, I think they can pull out a win here.
All right, got to stay positive. LMQ are just 1 game away from advancing to the playoff finals, so we'll see if they can get it done in Game 4 versus TSM. We'll be right back with more of our NALCS coverage after this.